悉地吽，唵咕噜连声悉地吽，唵咕噜连声悉地吽，唵咕噜连声悉地吽，唵咕噜连声悉地吽，唵咕噜连声悉地吽，唵咕噜连声悉地吽，唵咕噜连声悉地吽，唵咕噜连声悉地吽，唵咕噜连声悉地吽。
阿弥陀佛。阿弥陀佛，世界各地的莲花童子们，大家早上好，午安。
Good morning, good afternoon, good evening to all Tamils Maras around the world. I am today's host or MC, DA Mei Ping from Chanting Temple in London, in UK. It's now 7:50 p.m. Taiwan time, and welcome everyone back to the 8th course of Trooper School Online University, Sacred Chants of Buddhism. And today we are at lesson 1, chapter 1, part 5 on the Weino and the chanting group. And it's a crucial lesson because it's moving from individual practice to how people work together as a team. Today's lesson will allow everyone to understand
韦挪的职责与唱诵组威仪的要点，那包含韦挪如何带领整个法会的节奏与次序，音控与设备协调的要点，比方音控与设备之间如何配合的恰到好处，以及唱诵组的角色定位与协作规范。唱诵组如何在声音与威仪中做到整齐与庄严。那可以说这一堂课是非常的重要， 不只是教怎么样唱诵，而是学会如何在道场中真正做到如法、如仪、如修行。那前面的学习呢，都是为我们下一周即将开始的实修课打下非常重要的基础。那现在呢，我们请后台义工把实修课1里共4堂课的气手音档与点板连接发在留言区。那课后呢，也会发在学员群组。那大家可以在明天打开链接，列印那彩色版的点板。上师非常慈悲，上师说一般正常的点板呢都是黑白的，然后为了让大家方便学习，然后会准备一份彩色的点板让大家打印，然后大家可以提前下载，并且先聆听好音档，然后做好准备功课。那接下来呢，我将为大家简单说明一下本次课程的考试安排。那在说之前呢，先跟大家小小的互动，问大家一个问题：当大家一听到考试会有一点点压力的，请在留言区打个1；如果觉得还可以的，大家可以打个2。好，看来大家都是信心满满的。那现在呢，我将为大家说明本次课程的考核安排。整个佛教反拜课程呢，一共有，谢谢后台义工帮忙。那整个佛教反拜课程呢，一共有36节课。
For this year's course, there are 36
2 部
lessons,
分，理论课
and
共
it's
18
divided
节，
into
实修
theoretical
课
and
共18节。
practical
那考核
lessons,
部分
18
呢，
lessons
分
each.
2大部分，
In
理
terms
论
of the
课
exam,
那是跟往年一样
it's
的。
also divided
那
into
实
two
修
main
课呢，会
components,
再
the
分成
theory
2
and
部分，
practical.
我们稍
The
后
theory
在
is
题
similar
后
to
再播。
past
那
year's
理论
format,
课呢，就是的考核内容包括6
and
篇新的
its
报告，
content,
满分共30分，
6
然后
assignments,
1
30
份的期
marks,
末视频作业，
one
满
final
分
assignment,
共
a
20
video
分，
recording,
60题
20,
的选
20
择
marks
题， 每
total,
题共3个选
60
项，满
multiple
分
choice
共30
questions,
分，还有1题
total
的
30
申论
marks,
题，满
and
分共
one
20分。那
open-ended
听起来
essay
好像
question.
很多，但是其
And
实
it
大
might
家
seem
如果
like a
上课
lot,
有在
but
听，课
actually,
后
if you
有
have
在
been
整
paying
理作
attention
业而
during
写新的
the
报告，
classes
并
and
且
doing
可以到
reviews and
YouTube 去复习上师
writing
的
your
授课，
insights
基本
and
上大家都可以
review
轻
the
松的完
lessons,
成。
revise the lessons on
好，
YouTube,
接下来
you
呢，
should be
我
able
们
to finish
讲
it.
解实修课的课堂考核方式。在这里再问一下大家，有没有同学是想上来试，但有一点点紧张的呢？想的大家可以打上1，紧张的大家可以打上2。
If you're nervous, you can type in 2 in the chat.
相信大家都非常期待下周
I'm
开
sure
始的实
everyone's
修课。
looking forward
那欢
to
迎大
the
家踊跃
practical
参与课
lessons that
堂
will
考核
start
的
next
实
week,
修课。
and we welcome you to
每一周的
take part
那
in
个
the
课堂
practical
考核的
exam.
方式呢，将会每周限定最
The
多2位学
format
员。
for
大家
the
可以
mini
自愿报
exam,
名
the
上来，
mini
可以在留言
assessments
区
during
找
the
蔡
lessons
上
would
师提
be
前报名
signing
就
up
可以
as a
了。
volunteer
那在课
to
堂
take
考
part
核的
in
时候，
the
您可以使用法器，比方是木鱼、
assessments
引
during
器、
the
大
class.
磬。
So
但是
only
如
a
果
maximum
没
of
有的话
2
呢，也完全
volunteers
没有关系。
are
您就
selected.
可以
You
用
need to
手或者
register
用
with
笔上
Dhamma
做记
Instructor
录，这样
Yichai
可以
in
完成这
advance,
课堂考
and
核。
you can use the Dhamma implements or
那
ritual
上来
implements,
呢，
the wooden
大
fish
家可以
movie
现
or
场
in
呈
Sing,
现唱诵
the
以
guiding
及
bell.
法器
If
的
you're not
运用
able
的
to
配
use
合。
the Dhamma or ritual
上
instruments,
师
you can
会
use both
现场
hands
给
or
予指导和
pens
点评。
and
那
tap
课堂考
rhythms
核
on
的
the
分
table.
数呢，将不公
And
开，但是
it will be
参与
a
的学员可以
presentation
直接
of
加分10
your
分。
singing
那课
and
堂考
also
核
your
大家可
use
能会
of
比
the
较
ritual
紧张，
instruments.
但是
And
在这
the
里
master
再
will
提醒
do
大
an
家一次，
assessment,
会加10 分
but
哦。
the marks
那
will
有的
not
就比
be
较辛苦一
publicly
点点的。
announced. But
那
anyone
另
who
外呢，
participates
还
in
有
this
就是
component will
课后
have an
考核的
additional
部
10
分。
points added to
那
your
课
total
后考
score
核的部
if
分
you're
呢，
taken by the
会需
exam.
要学员录
And
关音
after
档或
the
者视频，
class,
大家
you
可以
can
将档案上传
record
到 Google Drive
a
或者
video
YouTube，
or
然后再把链
audio
接提
recording
交给一才讲
and
师。
upload it onto Google Drive or YouTube,
其实啊，
and
整
then
个
submit
考
the
核
links to
安
these
排
files
更
to
重
Dhamma
要的不
instructor
是分
Yichai.
数的本身，
So it's not so much the score, but what's more important in the process of learning, step by step, to strengthen your foundation and let Fanpai become a part of your cultivation. Through your diligence, it will prove what you have truly learned during the classes and your progress in learning. So the time is now 7:57 Taiwan time, and there are 3 more minutes before the start of the class. Before we start the class today, let us revise what we have learned in the past lesson, what Master Lian Wei taught from about key points. So she taught that before the lesson, Grandmaster has written in his books or in his book that we need to, before we start our practice of Fanbai, we need to write on a piece of paper that this is a Fanbai practice and practice of visual instruments. So may the Dharmapalas, Nagas, Devas, please don't pay attention or don't mind. So because the ritual instruments have a sacred power, and if you hit them, it might cause the Dharma Palas, the Dharma protectors, to mistakenly believe that something is happening, like a Dharma event. So when you're practicing, you need to create this announcement. You can print a piece of paper with this announcement on it and place it on the table when you're practicing, so that the Dharma protectors and the deities will know that you are just practicing, and they will not mistakenly believe that it's a Dharma event or Dharma ceremony. Okay, and let's look at all the students who have entered the Zoom session. Because of the time, I will not say hello to each student one by one, and I see they're from all over the world. Master Lian Wei also mentioned during the last lesson that ritual instruments are not limited to the wooden fish, singing bowl, or the guiding bell. The greatest Dharma instruments or ritual instruments are the great bell and great drum in a temple or monastery. And if you would like to find out more, you can also look at the video recording of last week's lesson, and also join the WhatsApp groups for PBSOU to download, access the class materials are shared. And the time is now 8 p.m. sharp. So now let us reverently welcome most esteemed Master Chongsu, Master Lian He from TBF, and also tonight's teaching master, Master Lian Wei, and all levels of Dharma propagators, senior reverends, Dharma instructors, Dharma assistants, Dharma siblings, and let's welcome Master Lian Wei to guide us to.
好，请大家先手结莲花童子手印。
Please form the Pamakumara
观
mudra
想根本传承
and
上师
visualize
人
our
生
lineage
前
guru, His Holiness Living Buddha Lian Shan,
放光
above the
加
top of our
持，
crowns, radiating great light to bless.
也祈请真佛宗历代
And we
传
also
承
pray
祖
for
师，
the blessing of
爱
the
应
Trigger School
圣
lineage
善报，
gurus,
放
the
光
triple
加倍，
gem of the altar, the three
弟子
jewels
授
to
课让
radiate
吉
light.
祥圆满，
Tonight's
学员
lesson will be
在
auspicious
学
and
习方
perfect,
面
and all students in
受
their
益
learning
圆满。
will be able to fully
根据
learn
莲花童子心咒7遍，
perfectly.
祈
And let's
请
recite the
展
mantra
成大
to
加
pray for the
持。
great lineage blessing.
Om Guru 莲生悉地 Hom。 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 Om Guru 莲生悉地 Hom。Om Guru 莲生悉地 Hom。好，会长、联合上师、教授师、法师、讲
TBF
师、诸
Chairman,
佛各位
Master
师
Lian
兄师
Her,
姐，大家晚上好。
all levels of Dharma
我们今
propagators and
天
Dharma
上
siblings,
课的主
greetings
题
to everyone.
是韦挪跟唱诵组。
Today's
就像
lesson
刚
is
刚主持
about the
人提
Weino
早
or
讲
the
的，我
chant
们现
leader
在
in the
将从
chanting
个
group,
人进入到这
and
个
we
团
have
体的
moved,
共修。
as the MC
所以
mentioned,
这个
from
在
individual practice to how
在这
the
个今
chanting
天
group
的上课内容当中，那个 PPT
team
可以先出来了。
practice. So you can play the PPT slides
所
first,
以在这个
and
下一页，
next slide,
下一页。
next slide.
好，所以在我们这个团体的共修当中呢，音声跟威仪不再只是这个仪式
In
而
the
已，
cultivation
是
values
行者
practice,
修心、
sound and
摄众
way
跟
department
安住的一个重要媒介。
are not just
那
ritual
韦挪
forms,
跟
but they
唱
are
诵组
important
就是
media
乐众
through which
的
practitioners
角色呢，
focus the
基本
minds
上
and
是承担
cultivate.
音声还有声
So
性的
a
示
Weino
范。
or
所以
a
除
Cantor
了
chant
音
leader,
声以外，声
they
形
need to
的威仪也
assume
很重要，因为它就
responsibility
是
for
这个
not just
五
the
相的
sound, but
转化。
also physical
所以
conduct, because
我们就是
Wei
搭配
or
这些音声跟威
department
仪，
dignified
在整个
presence
共
is
修当中
silent
也
teaching.
要有一体运
So
作的
in
概
group
念。
practice, you need to
好，
have
下一页。
a concept of
那今天上课的重点，学习重点有4个。第一
working
个是韦
together
挪
as
的
one
职
body.
责，韦
So
挪
I will
的
talk
威
about
仪
the
是
Weino's
威
role
仪。
first,
第二个是
the
唱诵组，也就是
Wei
乐
of
众，
body,
所有
speech, and
承
mind,
担
and
法
then
器
of
跟唱诵
the
的，
chanting
是
group.
他的声
They
音
are
跟
all
他的
called
行为。 好，
they are
是这样
called
的。
乐众.
第3个刚讲音声， 不
Their
是只有唱
behavior, the
诵，
conduct,
还包
and
括
sound
法
is not
器，
just
所以
about
法器的引
singing,
导
but
跟
also
指
the
引。
ritual
我们
instrument
讲
sound.
顺2个
So
字，
how
这个
do
非
ritual
常重
instruments
要，这2个字。
attune
再
to
来
the
第4
Weino?
个重点，今
And
天
then the
就是
fourth
讲
main
到
point
乐
is
众实
about
作。
teamwork
好，这个一般来讲，里面的很多
or
实物
group
都是我个人
coordination.
的经
There are
验
a lot of
体验跟大家来分
a lot
享。
of it
好，
is
下
based
一
on my
页。
practical experience,
所以
sharing with
今
everyone.
天的第一个主题就是韦挪的
The
职责
first main
跟威
point
仪。
is about
韦
the
挪的
role and
职责包
responsibilities of a
括
Weino
举枪、
or the chant leader.
旋律
So
跟节奏的
they
引导。
are
什么叫做举枪？也就是唱诵的
what
开
is
始
Chang, the
起始。
opening
一般我
intonation?
们会讲起音，
A lot of times we
或
talk,
者是
we
讲
also
起
call it
枪都可
in
以。好，
Chang. These are
所以
alternative
这个举
terms,
枪基
meaning
本
the
上就
same
是
thing,
确立
referring
这个
to
音
the
高节
opening
奏。
intonation,
那
which
旋律
establishes the
跟
pitch, the opening pitch, and
唱
also
诵
the
的
melody.
旋律
Um,
一定是要熟悉的，
you
最好
have
是
to be
中泰
familiar with the
共通，
melody,
以致
and
比
it
较
should ideally
共
be
同
the
的这个
same
旋
throughout
律，
the
这样
entire
子的
school.
话，所有的同仁
The
都比较
unified
容
melody,
易
so that all
跟
Dharma
着
siblings,
唱诵，或是
practitioners
跟
will
着
be able
唱
to
法器。
follow
好，
the
第
melody
3
and
个
also
节
be
奏，
able
一
to
点一点，这边
practice
我
the
会简
ritual
单的讲过去。
instruments, to play
节
the
奏的
ritual
话，就
instruments
是
properly.
快慢的问题。好，
Jiezhou
那
is
板
rhythm,
眼，什么叫
it's
做
about the
板眼？
tempo.
板
And what
眼，
is
这个板
banyan?
眼这2个字会常出现。板
Banyan,
眼
this
主要讲
term
的
will
是我们
crop up,
唱诵的
will
时
pop
候
up
拍
often.
子
It
的
refers
节
to
奏，
when we,
一般都是4
it
拍
refers
4
to the
拍
beat
4
structure.
拍。好，
Usually
但
it's
是
4/4,
有些
4
人如
beats,
果
4
他
beats. But
刻
some
意拉
people,
长音，或者
if
是他本
they
来就是速
drag
度
a
快，
note
讲话
or
慢
if
速度
their
慢一
tempo
点，
is
这个拍
naturally
数就
slower,
会
then
拉长
the
5
beats
拍甚至6拍。
might
那
drag
有些
to
人
5
气不
beats or
足，本
6
来应该
beats.
唱4
And some
拍，
people with
他就
a
会
limited
减
breath
短变成3
capacity,
拍。所以这
they
个
might
拍数的
sing
结
a
构，
note maybe with 3
这
beats.
个板
So
眼
the
是很
structure of
重
the
要的。
beats,
所谓的
this
这个
ban
眼就是落字的
the
格子，比如
yen
说
is
一
where
拍
the
里
beat
面可能有
falls.
1个字，
The
但是下
maybe
一拍可能是有2个字的，
maybe a
这个
beat might
是
have 1
板
word
眼的
or a
落点，
beat might
也
have
是
2
唱
words.
诵的时候
So
要
where
非
does
常的
that beat
清
fall?
晰。我们在讲法器
The
的时候
chant
也
leader
是
needs
要
to be
清
very
楚。
clear about this when
转
they're
板呢，
striking the ritual instruments as
转
well.
板有2种，一种是
Ban.
唱诵上的转
There are
板，比如
two
说我们在诵
points.
这个韦
One is
挪
when we
带领
sing,
这个
the
团体，
melody
从一
changes,
开始诵经起音举
or when
枪的
we
时候是
chant a
会比较
sutra,
慢的，
the opening intonation might be slower, but when it reaches the third line, after you strike the singing bowl to rest palms, the tempo will change from slow to moderate tempo, and this is about transitioning. 收尾 is the close. A chant leader or Wei needs to be able to indicate to everyone the closing. So when you're about to close, they will, for instance, the chant leader, the Wei will strike the single ones during the first line, the first chant, and at the seventh line, when they are closing, they would strike the singing bowl at the start of the last line or last chant of a mantra, for instance. So the second point, the Wino also needs to have mastery over the ritual procedure and also the session flow. So it might seem like a no-brainer, but a master once shared with me that they invited a Dharma propagator to lead the ritual at their temple, and this ritual is more complicated or more complex, and in a limited time, the Dharma propagator may have been unfamiliar with the mudras, mantras, and everything. So there were a lot of problems and issues throughout the whole session, and with the chanting group, there were a lot of stumbling points and gaps. So when all these issues keep cropping up, then everybody would feel uncomfortable and they would feel at unease. Right? Why is there like a random stopping point here? Or so there are a lot of questions in their participants' minds. So they would give rise to a lot of doubts, and they might feel like the Dharma ceremony is not very smooth, not very auspicious, and they will not be able to really settle their minds to participate fully, wholeheartedly. And the master told me that the whole Dharma ceremony was ruined. So please don't take this lightly or underestimate how important Waynor and the chanting group needs to be able to coordinate smoothly, harmoniously together. And regarding the session flow and mastery, let's go back to the PowerPoint. Before the session, you need to rehearse before a call in terms of when you bestow food, 吃食, the Dharma propagators, they need to rehearse the steps, or during a bathing the Buddha ceremony, all the routes for walking, the number of times the participant can bathe a Buddha, all of that has to be decided beforehand. Or if there is a fuchen where there is a marriage blessing of marriages, or newlyweds, or ordination ceremony, all of these need to be properly planned. And in the feast offerings, sometimes there is the offering of the 8 offering items. It needs to correspond to the respective mantras. When the master of ceremonies, the MC, mentions this, I've observed that sometimes the mantras don't correspond to the correct offering. So they might not be holding the water offering. They might be, but they're reciting the mantra for water offering. So it's not corresponding. So what I'm talking about right now is all practical experience. It might not really be about Dharma. The main point of today's class is about practical part. When you are preparing the water offering, the offering of water, it should be when they are organized in front of the master, they should be placed in sequence according to the mantras, recitation of the mantras. So this will prevent or minimize issues with the correct offering being presented. So we need to pay attention to the flow. And the next point, key points on the Wei Yi or deportment or dignified presence of the Wei No and the chanting group. So Wei Yi is silent teaching. What it involves your standing posture, how you walk. You need to have a proper decorum when you walk and stand and sit, and don't drag your feet when you're walking. When you are walking, not too fast, not too slow. And some people might have noticed that when we are welcoming the masters, you shouldn't walk too slowly. However, if it's too slow, something I've observed recently, So anyway, you need to discern at your own discretion what is the correct speed. When you are walking, you need to have a very clear sense of direction. Don't keep looking back, doubting whether you're walking the right direction, and then this would lose weight. And the person also needs to have pay attention to their own gaze. It should be soft and gentle, but yet focused. So your own inner state of mind, your gaze would naturally reflect what is your inner state of mind. I have visited a cultivation venue where someone was doing the evening ritual or evening session, and the person didn't know and was doing the ritual halfway and then turned his or her head to look at me. So it means that they weren't really fully immersed in their session. So we know when they're when they're leading a session, they shouldn't be looking elsewhere or at whatever is happening in the external environment. Outside of the session. And also their hand gestures, how you hold the mallet of a wooden fish. 3 fingers, hold it with 3 fingers, and when you hit it, you just need to move your wrist, and you don't have to swing your entire arm. So when you're striking the bell and drum, these are the ritual instruments of Buddhism. It's not jazz drums. So it's not like a jazz musician, with a whole set of drums. So Grandma has mentioned that when our bodies are moving, our qi is moving and our minds will also move together with qi. We need to let our hearts settle down. So the movements of your body shouldn't be too great, because if the movements of your body are too great, then it will affect your state of mind. Your qi and your minds will also follow along with the movements of your body. Now let's go back to the PowerPoint. Regarding also, we need to pay attention to bodily postures when we're doing Bai Chan, precision, repentance. Don't move your bodies according to the tempo. Sometimes I'll see people moving or swaying their bodies according to tempo, and it might lose a little bit of weight. The third point, about sound and the third point about volume control and equipment. Going back, third sub-point about sound and rhythm or tempo. Chant is about opening intonation.
大概这样就好，但是不要刻意。
So don't drag it intentionally too long.
就是一直拉，一直拉，拉很长哈。
If you keep dragging the note, there's not a lot of time, so I won't demonstrate too much. But don't intentionally drag it for excessive length of time. Don't add in your own personal individual style, because I have also heard other people singing. Someone saying, sometimes when I sing the supplication for Buddha to remain in the world, I might not be able to control myself and I cry, and the sound of that might indirectly affect the singing. But when you're singing the repentance text, for instance, I hope that everyone will have a straight, sincere heart. And if it's sincere emotion and your voice reflects that, then let it be. But don't intentionally try to evoke that emotion. There is fast tempo versions, and there are also flowing water tempo versions. But for the intense praise and the praise of the pure, don't sing it too quickly, because your qi would also move very fast together with how you sing, which would affect how your mind settles. And it would also reduce the amount of time that the participants have in terms of contemplating the meaning of the words. So this is why there is also a slow tempo version or slow version of the incense praise, which we will go into in part 8 or 9 of the chapter. we need to settle our minds and our breath. And the next point about ban yin, the beat structure, and 转折, which is transition. When talking about volume control and equipment during a drama ceremony, a lot of times we're using MP3 recordings. For instance, the Indonesia version of the incense praise or supplication for Buddha to stay in the world, or during the ordination anniversary, we might play Happy Birthday. But beforehand, the Weino or the MC, the Master of Ceremonies, they all need to beforehand listen to the music, to be familiar with the melodies, so that during the Dharma ceremonies, when they're holding the microphones and singing, there will not be an issue of they're chasing the beats, or like they are coming in too early, or like not being able to follow along. You need to with the sound audio equipment control, you need to communicate. There needs to be communication between all these parties. Sometimes, as a master of ceremonies, I'm also the Weino, and I have to talk to the audio equipment people. We need to let them know when I reach this line, what kind of music you need to play. They need to play the correct music recordings. For instance, if there are 3 audio recordings for that day, you need to follow in the sequence A, B, C instead of B, C, A. And also what should be played in the first session, at the end of the first section, is played at a later point, or then the master of ceremonies needs to remind the audio person to play the correct soundtrack, because the audio person didn't pay attention or was not able to play at the right time. During the Lu Xiang Zan, they tried the track for 30 seconds, but then during the actual Dharma ceremony, the track started playing from the 31st second. So a lot of times, there a lot of mistakes, a lot of different kinds of mistakes can happen. So we need to make sure that the correct music is played, the correct timing, where they're playing from. The testing of the microphones before the ceremony, the Weino and the chanting group needs to test the microphones all together. And the testing of the microphones, I do not recommend that everyone says microphone testing 1, 2, 3, 4, because if there are 4 people testing the microphone, everybody's saying the same line, I recommend that everybody chants Rukuru mantra, Pamakumara mantra, because the audience is there and everyone can hear the mantra and it achieves the same purpose instead of microphone sound check 1, 2, 3, 4. Microphone sound check 1, 2, 3, 4, like repeatedly. So the other instruments like the hatsu, the dangzi, like cymbals, gong, these are supporting accompanying original instruments, so their volume should be reduced. The murui, their microphone should also be reduced in volume, but you also need to pay attention to their combined volume, because even if their individual volume is still lower than the Weino's volume, if these 3 together are still greater than the Weino, then that's a problem. So the Weino's sound has to be the loudest, and that's a guiding principle for the volume control, microphone control. The next point, Yujia which translates to the ritual, in short, yoga flaming mouth, or yoga of liberating the preacher flaming mouth ritual ceremony. So if you're flustered, and these are some of the commonly observed deviations and key points for remediation. So if the Weino is anxious, or the chanting group is anxious, flustered, then immediately pray for Grandmaster to dwell above your crown, to pray for their blessing, for his blessing, so that your heart will be focused and you are clear in each step. And sometimes, if you're not familiar with the sutra, that is also a problem. And if it's too fast or too slow, it might result in chaos and the assembly's voices not being able to follow properly along. Are their families able to follow along? For instance, in a white matter, like a funeral chanting, maybe the family is participating for the first time in their lives in a Buddhist ceremony, so they might not actually know how to, it's their first time reading the Amitabha Sutra. So you need to be mindful of this and don't doubt why the Wei suddenly goes slow. Whatever the Wei does, if they transition from a moderate tempo to a slow tempo, all the other ritual instruments need to follow the Wei even if it might not, even if the reason might not be immediately clear. And so the next point about 5 or 6 is the tempo rhythm is not very clear. Number 7, I'm unfamiliar with melodies. I have been to cultivation venues where the chapter chairperson, when they invited Dharma propagators to their temples to help, but the Dharma propagators were not able to lead. They failed 3 times during the opening intonation and everybody just everyone was stuck. They didn't know how to go on. So don't be overly confident, and it's good to have confidence, but you still need to, before doing any Dhamma activity, you need to continually practice. The 8th point about gestures being excessive, I mentioned that earlier. Number 9, the main voice should not be overwhelmed. In the chanting group, if you're not able to hear the Wei No's voice, that means that the assembly's voices is too loud, or the accompanying ritual instruments are too loud. So you need to hold the microphones further away or automatically lower your volume. Take the initiative to adjust your volume. And what are role definition? Sorry, haven't finished explaining. So the Wei No also needs to guide sound, guide people, guide the venue. Yeah. So guiding sound means opening intonation being stable, clear melody, the beat structure is clear, accurate transitions, very stable, steady closure, and harmony with the assembly of voices sounds. They also need to guide people, be familiar with the ritual procedure. Cues are clear, and they are able to lead the masses in terms, let their hearts be settled, at ease, at peace. 代场 is they need to maintain the overall solemnity and the overall of the Dharma ceremony. And the 乐众, the role and responsibility of 乐众, the accompanying instruments like the muyu, etc., they need to support the main sound, and they need to attune to the Wei No, and also they need to follow closely to the Wei No's cues, which can be through ritual instruments, signals from the ritual instruments, or it can be gestures, or it could be sound. Wu Chang is about supporting a session or a Dharma ceremony or a venue. I have been to a ceremony where they were doing Emperor of Liang repentance ceremony, and the chapter chairperson wanted to let someone new to practice. So I was very surprised, because the Emperor of Liang ceremony is a very major ceremony. So usually you should start from something smaller, like a smaller event. So I invited a reverend to go and listen, and the reverend felt that this person sounded okay. But after we started the ceremony, when I sang faster, the person struck the instrument even faster. When I sang slow, the person struck the instrument even slower. So it was really chaotic. So, but luckily, because I was trained, I sang in the choir in my youth. So I was able to continue in a stable manner, but I was affected because I needed to spend a lot more effort to focus, to keep the beat steady, the tempo steady. And the participants of the assembly were also affected. Um, they were not really able to enter the mood, the atmosphere, the spirit of the ceremony. So when we talk about 护场, which is supporting the ceremony, what I mentioned just now is more like they're kind of like creating chaos in the session. So don't take it for granted that everything will proceed smoothly, because I've really encountered a lot of actual situations, which is why I'm able to be here today sharing with everyone. In terms of Wei Yi, when we enter the altar, the shrine, in the dragon side is the master of ceremonies. In the 五边 is the tiger side. It needs to be very dignified, overall majestic, and the way everyone is assembled, they need to be able to see the Wei Nuo from where they are, their positions. So the Wei Nuo, when he or she has hand gestures, when striking a ritual instrument, then everyone can see clearly. When they're leading the singing, the Wei Nuo needs to also be able to see the bell and drum, because they need to coordinate very closely together. So everyone needs to be able to see the Wei Nuo, everyone in chanting group especially. And then taking Taiwan Litang Temple as an example, when the Wei Nuo faces Grandmaster, all the chanting group members need to follow accordingly. If the Wei Nuo turns to the assembly, then the chanting group also needs to turn at the same time together. So then it will look more neat and coordinated. If holding a microphone to sing, you can, if it's like a great instrument, for instance, at Taiwan Litang Temple, there might be bigger, louder sounding instruments. It's like loud cymbals, like big cymbals, or they play the horn, or the Tibetan drums, because these are louder instruments. If the horn is too close to the microphone, when you blow the horn, you play the horn too close to the microphone will burst in sound. So there needs to be a certain distance between the microphone and the instrument. And we talk about guidelines for Bai Chan, prostration, repentance. There is repentance, prostration, homage, and also we stand up and also bow when shu. When the Wei Nuo, usually in Tribal school, because of the limited number of Dharma propagators, Sangha, when we are kneeling, we would usually strike the guiding bell and use the guiding bell to signal standing up. When the guiding bell chimes once, then you prostrate, and then when the guiding bell chimes again, then you get up. If the guiding bell has not been chimed yet, then don't stand up. So it's the same principle for kneeling and standing. You need to hear the instrument, the guiding bells chimes, then, or the singing bowls sound, then you stand up or you move. So don't move unless you hear the sound cue, the signal from the instruments. So it's the same for all participants of the Dharma event. And basic principles regarding tuning going along with the Wei Nuo. When the Wei Nuo presses the singing bell, okay, look at my screen. What is Dai Ming and what is Wei Ying? When the Wei Nuo is about to sing, or they're about to chant a sutra, they will press on the singing bowl. What does that mean? It means, is the chanting group ready? And this time the wooden fish, the Mu Yui, needs to Wei Ying respond to indicate that I'm prepared, I'm ready. So whenever the singing bowl is pressing on the instrument, it's about, are you all ready? So if, for instance, if the person playing the wooden fish is drinking water, and doesn't respond by pressing on the wooden fish immediately, then the Wei-Nuo would pause and then press a second time on the singing bowl. So then this would allow the Wei-Nuo to know without having to turn his or her head whether the chanting group, the person in charge of the Yuezhong in charge of the wooden fish is ready. So because sometimes the Wei-Nuo needs to focus or think about the opening intonation, the pitch. If they have to split their attention to guide the chanting group, then that's an added responsibility, like it's added stress. So the chanting group, they all need to be able to look, and they need to look at the Wei-Nuo, and they need to listen to the Wei-Nuo and adjust their speed or tempo accordingly. Sometimes when I'm leading, I would when I, for instance, rotate my, if I gesture circles, then I'm telling them to increase the tempo. And sometimes I have mentioned to the person playing the bell and drum, but during the ceremony, the person playing the bell and drum is not actually looking at me, and they just play according to their tempo. Sometimes they know, but they still need to put it into practice to adjust the tempo and look at the Wei-Nuo, follow the Wei-Nuo's cue. When the Wei-Nuo sings, usually they will begin with a slow tempo at the beginning, and the tempo will gradually increase. And the guiding principle for tempo adjustment, I hope that everyone will trust the Wei-Nuo in terms of adjusting tempo, their speed. For instance, in the Emperor of Liang repentance, sometimes the assembly may need to prostrate many times, and if they start with a slow tempo, and they will slowly, gradually change to a moderate tempo, and then it will. However, if we get to scroll 8 or 9, where we are prostrating on behalf of the 6 realms, and you recite the Buddha's name, the sutra texts are very short. So after, it's just one page. And then after that, you have to immediately stand up and then prostrate again to the Buddhas. And then after that, there's a big session where you kneel for a very short section of sutra. So these sections alternate sutra and then prostration sutra. So in these situations, my habit is to, after I start the intonation, I will change to a slow, moderate tempo instead of a moderate tempo because the sutra is only one page. So the wooden fish and all the other members of the Yuezhong, the chanting group, they need to trust the judgment of the Wei-Nuo because they might think that don't we usually sing the moderate tempo? So the Wei-Nuo has their reasons for making their choices. So people need to pay attention to, the chanting group needs to follow the Wei-Nuo's lead and attune to the Wei-Nuo. So the Wei-Nuo can use sound or their hand gestures or their original instruments to give cues or signals. So if the chanting group isn't looking, then sometimes they might resort to using the original instrument, like using the guiding bell to catch the attention of the chanting group. The third point, working together as one. So the chanting group needs to follow the Wei-Nuo and respond immediately, promptly to the Wei-Nuo. This is about letting go of personal attachments. So Sui Shun attunement is really not easy. If you know Sui Shun, then you will be able to know letting go of personal attachments. The next point about guiding principles for sound and also breath regulation. Control your volume accordingly. Don't let it be louder than the way you regulate your breath. Don't enunciate the words clearly and also be able to sustain your voice for a longer time. Now let's look at a table commonly seen, observed mistakes or deviations. So sometimes the chanting group's volume might be excessive, or it might have it might sound affected, like intentional, deliberate, emotional embellishment. Sometimes there are also cases where people forget to hold their Dharma instruments, or when they're prostrating and then they forget to kneel and when it's their turn. So if your chanting group member forgets, the other members can help to remind. It can happen to anyone. And it's also some people's minds might be scattered or not focused, or they're changing breaths, coughing, or they're if they have respiratory problems or issues, then this is when the chanting groups need to cover for each other to prevent sound from to prevent gaps in the sound. So I have seen Wei-Nuos where
没有第二句话，全力配合，尤其是中鼓手很辛苦哦。中鼓手会发现东旦韦挪的东旦如果唱4拍，西旦木鱼那边他们竟然是唱5拍，所以中鼓手在唱东旦在敲的时候，他是敲标准的4拍，到了西旦的时候就变成因为他放慢了，所以中鼓手又放慢，回到东旦又变快，西旦又变慢哈，所以中鼓手也是不抱怨的。你如果是高手，你马上1秒钟之内，你就是调整速度，没有第二句话。所以就算韦挪唱诵忽快忽慢，我们也是马上跟上，这才是这个很棒的这个乐众，好不好？好，那第7个问题就是诵经的时候常有的现象，就是木鱼只顾着自己专注的敲击，他只关注到他的速度，他是一直维持在中板。可是他没有去注意到韦挪想要变中快，或者因为后面的人跟不上，韦挪想要变慢，所以这个木鱼在敲木鱼的时候也是要注意，耳朵还是要留意韦挪的声音，所以韦挪的麦克风声音一定是要最大的，才能够唤醒这个敲木鱼的人哦，不要沉醉在自己的节拍里面哈。好，这个第8个我们晚一点再讲。好，下一页，法器运用跟音声相应。好，这个之前我们已经讲过了。所谓的乐众，当然就是要和雅乐众，不要忘记自己的这些
what is called a 乐众 is that they need to
叫做乐众，就是当然
flatten the assembly and
不开
also
心欢喜。好，那大庆这个
so what it literally means is to let cause the assembly to become happy and through harmonious sounds. When we strike the singing bowl, we have to, for instance, such and such drama ceremony begins. You need to strike the singing bowl 3 times slowly. If you strike it too quickly, there isn't much of an effect, and it's also not dignified or solemn. The drama ceremony begins.
This
demonstration, the 3 times are slightly different. The first time you strike the singing bowl, it's not to slightly lighter. You need to let the sound of the singing bowl subside gradually before striking it again. Now let's go back to the slide. When striking the singing bowl, it needs to firm but coarse, not overly harsh, and let the sound gradually fade away before continuing the next sound of the singing bowl. And for a guiding bell, generally when we sound the guiding bell, you can look at my hands. I'm using the fourth and little finger to hold the stem, and then my middle finger is supporting the stem, and I'm using my index and thumb to sound the guiding bell. So this is a moderate strength. Please don't strike it too harsh. This kind of sound will cause people to want to cover their ears. So then this will not be called 乐重, which is not causing the assembly to be happy. So your inner state of mind, it needs to be more refined or more pay attention to details. So we've mentioned these instruments before, the Hezi and the Fangzi, the miracle and symbol. So today let's talk about the bell and drum. This needs to correspond to the Dharma ceremonies, main purpose. So when we talk about the use of instruments, the guidance of ritual instruments, there are 4 parts: qi, cheng, zhuan, and he. So qi is about starting. When it's starting, it often starts, a Dharma session often begins with striking or sounding the singing bowl 3 times to indicate that the session has begun. And when the session is progressing, every time section begins, the Wei-nuo would press the singing bowl to indicate clearly. Or after the first section, after reciting the invocation, they would sound the singing bowl. And then after the prostration, the great homage, the equality mudra, they would sound it as well. And then after sounding the bowl, then they would recite the next section. After the mandala offering mantra, then they would strike the singing bowl. Then the next. I intentionally said it very quickly because there's limited time in the class. You can use the singing bowl, or you can use the bell. You can ring the bell, the vajra bell, a little bit to indicate that we have completed each segment of the ritual procedure. The second component, cheng, is when a Wei-nuo, when other instruments follow in and come in and they follow. This part is about when they come in and follow the way. The third part is about transitioning. In terms of practical aspects, when we are leading a Bai Chan or prostration repentance, when they close the section and they are inviting everyone to stand up and then bow, then after that, the Wei-nuo would press on the singing bowl and then start singing the Buddha's names. From the time when you're kneeling and chanting sutras to standing up and then bowing, throughout the whole process, the person playing the bell and drum has to continually play the transitional drums, 4门, continually until the
要开
维
始
诺
唱诵的时候，
presses the
钟鼓手这
singing
个
bowl,
人才可以停，不可
and
以
then
说
the
马
person
上
playing the
好像
bell and drum
完
can
全
stop.
没有声音，就只
So
有
it can't
他
be
在
too
唱。
dry where there's no
因为
sound in the
唱诵
background at
组
all and
需要
everyone's
休
just
息，
waiting.
维诺可能
So
需
the
要
chanting
喝一
group
口
also needs a bit
水，
of
需要
time
思
to
考一下，
rest, and the
比如
Weinua
说唱
also
佛号要
needs
唱哪
maybe might
个
need to drink
哪一个
a
旋
bit of
律，哪
water,
一个调，
take a sip
所
of
以
water,
要
and
等
think
这个
about
维
the
诺都
next
思考
section,
好
the
准备
pitch.
好，
So you
那
need
只有
to
唱
wait
诵组
till
的
the
人可
Weinua
以
is
稍
ready
微
and
休
all
息
the
一
members
下，
of
比
the
如说
chanting
任
group
何介意
are
提议，大家
ready. Maybe they are
可
going to
以
adjust
维
their
诺压大声，
clothing, their precepts
这
robes,
个
etc.
钟
Then
鼓
the
的转场就可以停。
person playing the bell and
好，
drum
再来同样
can
的，
only stop after
如
the
果是
Weinua
唱
has
完
given the
佛号，大
signal
家
by
下去跪
pressing
拜，
on the singing bowl.
然后起立，
Then when
对
everyone
不对？
kneels and then
接
stands
着
up,
问讯，
stand up, and then they bow,
然后维
Gunshin,
诺会说，请大家
the
从跪
Weinua
这
will
个过程当
tell
中，
everyone or
从佛
announce
号
that
结束，钟鼓手也是要一直接着打，
请大家
打
长跪和长 means
敲钟
to
鼓，
kneel
可以打花鼓，一直敲敲敲，敲到大
and
家
put
都
your
已经
palms
长
together.
跪合掌。然后维
And the
诺
person
就
playing
比
the
较
bell and
小
drums
心
will
支
keep
持
playing
维
until
诺，
everyone
多喝一
is
口
in
水，
that
因为
kind
维
of
诺其实一直
posture.
在出气的哈。
And so the
维
Weinua
诺压
has
大
might
声，
take
眼泪
might
诵
drink another bit of
钟
water.
鼓手才可以停，好不好？所以大家就是注意
So
在
the
唱
person playing
诵
the
的
bell
时
and
候
drum
的
has to
过
pay a lot
程
of
不要
attention
很
to
冷
the
场，特别
Weinua.
是在拜忏的
So
时候。
during the whole
好，
process,
这是
especially
个比
during
较
a
收
retention
心的基
ceremony,
础。
there shouldn't be any
然后
dry
在这
moments
个
where there is
这
completely
个
no
互相打气或
accompanying
者是
sound
光
in
临
the
的时
background.
候，让整个
Playing
万法
the
能
Katra
够圆
bell
满进退有
and
致的
scepter.
感觉。
Um,
好，再来我们讲一下契合这个主尊。哦，sorry，
the next
唱诵最后结束的时
point
候，每一段，比如说经文结束的时候，或
is
者我们
about
唱炉香赞结束，最后唱
okay. The
诵要
fourth
收音的时
component
候，会有一个
is about
下板，
closing.
就是敲一
Every
个大
time
钳。
when a section is drawing to a close, there
好，
is
敲一
a
个大钳。
a way to close it by breaking
好，以莲花童子唱
sha
诵最后一
ban.
句。
So it's the
嗡
singing
咕噜
bowl
连声
followed
悉地
by pressing the sing
吽，
bowl and then striking the sing bowl.
咕噜连声，我要下板哦。悉悉吽。哦，好，所以
Okay,
敲
so
一
that was
声
a
大钳，
demonstration
再
of
压
the
大
sha
钳，再
ban,
敲大
the
钳，这个叫做
breaking
下
or
板，也
the
就是一般我们
closure
讲刹
of
车。
a section.
下板的唱诵会拉长
So
音
the
唱的
singing
比较
of
慢，这个就
the
是最
sha
后
ban
收
will
摄。好，
the
下一页。
tempo is much slower, so this
再
is
来契合主
gradually
尊的和
closing.
行，或者是
The
和
next
性，好，
major
就是
point
因为这
about
个
corresponding
佛菩萨、金刚护
to
法、财神跟金
aligning
刚
with
座，他的
the
咒语特
characteristics
性、
of
他
the
的
main
磁
deity.
场、他的磁
So
力
because they
都
have
不
different
一样，
fields,
所
they have
以我
different
们的
auras.
法器
For
发出
instance,
来的时候，
Dharmapala
要
versus the
产生
Buddha
出
Bodhisattva
跟我
versus
们
the
实际的
Dharmapala,
法
Patra
器是
Protector
一样
Haruka
的。我举
versus
个
a
例
wealth
子，
deity
也是我们教
versus
的哈。
magnetizing deities.
有一次我
Let
出
me
席这个
share an
瑜
actual
伽宴
example.
口的
Once
法会， 那我
I
们大
went
家
to
知道这个
preside
前七
over
节
瑜伽
前
宴
七做
口
完之后，
ceremony,
瑜伽宴口
and
是不
after
是
this
要写
preliminary
写
steps
这个龙
of
童子心咒
the
108遍，手传心
preliminary
加持
sequence,
之后，
the
我们
beginning
先打
sequence,
钱，
we
当
will
时地藏
before
王菩
we
萨心
begin
经
the
108遍
main
之后，因为
sequence,
地
we
藏
need
王菩
to
萨的心
recite
魔
the
之后，我们
main
才能够写
deity's
心法。
mantra
比如说写
108
出
times
破地狱啊，或者是
before
招亲咒、
we
普招吉，然后施食等等等。
perform Singfa, which is
可是，
carry
在
out
写上这个地
the
藏王
main
菩萨
part
心咒
of the
108
ritual,
遍，接着是
um,
不是要入这个主尊
where
佛
you
地？
open the hell realms
所以
and
所有
etc.
的唱诵组人员应该要去先了
The
解地
chanting
藏王
group
菩萨
needs
的
to
磁场
first
是什么，
understand
你
what
才可
is
以持
the
出。因为我们在
um,
持这个108
field,
遍的时候，
the
当
magnetic
时它是
field or the aura
对着
of
钟鼓一
Kishigaba
起来持
Bodhisattva,
咒的，它其实钟鼓拍子敲的非
and
常好，
the bell and
非
drum
常的准。
player
但是
was
问题在哪
really
里？
able to play very
他
well.
没
The
有
rhythm
了
was
解地藏王菩萨的
fantastic,
愿力是
but
什
this
么，不是
person
不
did
不
not
是不尊
really
重，
go and
而
understand what is Kishigaba Bodhisattva's vow, aspiration. There's great compassion, and that because they have that intent of wanting to liberate beings in the hell realm, but the person playing the bell and drum was very lively, very talented, very skillful, and was very frankly, I'm getting older, so it was a little uncomfortable for me. It was a little difficult to enter samadhi. So our purpose is, after reciting the 108 times of Kishigaba Bodhisattva's mantra and entering samadhi, we need to understand the way we're playing the ritual instruments. Does it correspond or align with the main deity of the Dharma ceremony? The person playing the bell and drum, if they know the aspiration, the compassion of Kishigaba Bodhisattva, then they will not play the instrument, the bell and drum, as though it were like a parade or a festival kind of atmosphere, kind of manner. So the sound of the instruments are also, they need to be even and softer and gentler to contain the compassion of the bodhisattvas, the Buddha's bodhisattvas. For Dharma Palace, it needs to be energetic. They are about subjugation, but it's not overly harsh. So for wealth deities, it's lively, but it's not disorganized. When you are happy, the kind of sounds that you play will be happy. So before the ceremony, you need to understand the main deity of the ceremony. Okay, so let's speed up a little bit because the time has passed. Teamwork. The Wei is basically the conductor, and everyone needs to focus on collaborating, following the Wei lead, and observe each other's Wei and sound. So some of the key points are behind, so I'll skim over this. So the main thing is that we hope that in Trooper School we can have a unified way of singing, and also the chanting group needs to attune to the Wei, and you need to rehearse on a regular basis to prevent situations where the master of ceremonies and the chanting group is not able to coordinate with each other and cause a lot of mishaps or stumbling points in the ceremony. So from the next lesson, we will start the practical. The right hand place the wooden fish, the muyu, and hold the guiding bell with your left hand. So if other people are not able to come to the cultivation venue, then you'll be able to play two instruments at the same time. During the course of practice, if there are Dharma siblings who sing wrongly or are not able to strike the Dharma instruments in rhythm, then I hope that you'll be gentle in your feedback when giving others feedback. This part about pitch, when I was a Wei, I encountered various situations. When I was in the choir, we had sopranos and altos. We had mid-sopranos and altos, and I was in the mid vocal range. There is the these are all inborn characteristics of the voice. So everybody has a different extent of singing range. So some people can sing high notes, some people can sing low notes. This is something that's innate. It's what we're born with. So if a person comes to me and says, "This is such a low pitch, I'm not able to follow along. Can you sing higher?" Then I had to use a lot of force it sounded like killing a chicken. And it was very tiring because I tried to give in to the person playing the wooden fish. In any case, I hope everyone was happy. But the problem is, if I sing the high notes, can the people who sing the mid-pitch notes and the low notes follow the people sing the sopranos? Or then what happens when a person is able to sing the low notes and other people who sing the mid-range notes and high notes are not able to sing the low notes? So what I want to say is a Wei-nuo is no matter how they sing, there will be people who are not able to follow their pitch. However, there are also some people who will be able to attune to the Wei-nuo's pitch range. So requesting a Wei-nuo to change their singing pitch is not the will not be able to solve the problem at its core. No matter what kind of pitch that a Wei-nuo sings, please don't request the Wei-nuo to sing a certain pitch range. You sing too high, can you sing lower? Or you sing too low, can you sing higher? The Wei-nuo will be at a loss and not able to cater to everyone. And it might also affect the Wei-nuo's state of mind and also affect the mood of the ceremony. So regardless of the chanting group or those taking part in a Dharma ceremony, we need to attune to the pitch that is sung because everyone has their own natural inborn vocal range. So don't complain about the pitch, the vocal range of the we know this isn't really a problem because no one is able to satisfy all kinds of pitch ranges. So if someone who is has a more mid-range vocal range would be able to maybe cater for those in the high and low ranges. So let's try to minimize the conflict, finger pointing in a cultivation venue. And in a cultivation venue or ceremony, we need to also forgive or not magnify small mistakes. We don't need to exaggerate or magnify because we also do chant the 100 syllable mantra at the end to make up any errors or omissions during the ritual. Sometimes there might even be slips in the sequence where Grandma Sarah has mentioned that as long as the steps of the beginning sequence of the procedure are carried out, it's okay. If you, after finishing the Great Mandala offering, and then if somebody at the side realizes that we know has missed one step, then they can kind of nudge or hint or guide, like cue, indicate to the label, and they can go back to doing it. And that's if there's a miss, if the sequence is a little off, that's still okay. So when an assembly is divided into Dongdan and Xidan, which is the east section of the assembly and the west section of the assembly, they usually sing in alternate lines. Sometimes there are cases where people stand and kneel and you might sing the wrong line, and that can happen. But if it does happen, let go. It has already happened, and we just focus on the present moment to finish what is at hand. And at the end, recite 100 syllable mantra. Recite it fully, wholeheartedly to make up for the errors or omissions during the practice. And these are the main points of today's lesson. So from the Wei-nuo to the chanting group and the ritual instruments, Teamwork is also an extension of cultivation, about coordinating, and during the course of coordination or teamwork, we learn to let go. We learn to let go of personal attachments, and during differences, we learn to attune to each other, or so that there is overall harmony. Thank you, Master Liang Wei, for your compassionate lesson, and it has been a very rewarding session. Let us type in 888 in the chat to thank Master Liang Wei. And now let's enter the Q&A segment for tonight's class. If there are questions from the last lesson that were not answered, then we can have them answered today, or if there are also any questions from the students in the session, you can also ask, and I will help to read your questions aloud to invite Master Liang Wei to answer the questions. Are there any questions? If there are no questions, that's the best. Okay, I see 3 questions in the chat. Dharma brother Tianqi asked, when walking and turning, must it be 90 degrees? Master Liang Wei replies, yes. Because sorry, I have to mention this when masters when they encounter certain blocks, they might sometimes not walk 90 degrees. So at Taoyuan Temple, they actually try to get overcome this problem by marking the ground with tape to indicate the lines when people should walk. The next question. Okay, now there are slides. Another question from the brother Tianqi. During chanting, if we let Tongmen to start and the whole chanting goes astray, then what should we do? I don't even quite understand this question. What does it mean by letting the assembly start the chanting first? I guess the question is about if the first chant, it's the assembly instead of the Wei. Master Liang Wei replies, it has to be the Wei, it can't be the assembly. So that's why I talk about the Wei, giving the Wei sufficient time to think about the pitch of the opening intonation. It's like the chapter chairperson complaining to me about inviting a Dharma propagator to their temple who stopped after the first line and who sang a second time the opening intonation and tried a third time. If the first time you have sung it wrongly and you stop and you start again, if you sang it wrongly, then naturally everything that follows would miss the mark. So before you sing or chant, you have to practice. And if there are other Dharma siblings of the chanting group who are able to supplement or support, think of a way to help the person make up for if the opening intonation, if the person is not a Wei Nuo, then the Wei Nuo needs to, in a Sutrayana tradition, a Wei Nuo needs to have 20 or 30 years of experience and training to truly be able to be a Wei Nuo. But in True Buddhist school, because Grandmaster has taught us that everyone is equal and we all have the chance to learn and train and try. However, we need to know that when we stand on the podium for 1 minute or on the stage for 1 minute, we need to have 10 years of practice or experience beneath the stage. We need to not feel the audience. So you need to have sufficient practice before you hold the baton. So if it's an actual situation and you're already in that situation, there's no way to turn the clock back, then you just have to forget, and forget. And after that, chant the 100 syllable mantra many times to make up for the error. We are not trying to teach the person a lesson, but we need to remind ourselves that let's not make the same mistake twice or make the mistake again. Thank you, Master Lian Wei, for your. The next question is from Master Lian He. When we chant the sutras and there is a stumbling point, there is a pause or a gap. What does this line mean?
所以会乱，尤其是如果4个人都有拿麦克风的时候，就会建议。
If there are 4 people holding the microphones at the same time, sometimes there can be chaos or confusion. So what that means is first, lower in volume, pause a little bit. Otherwise, you would have 4 people fighting for attention. There'll be like a tug among 4 people. So first stop and listen to the Weinu to catch hold of the rhythm again, and then follow according to the Weinu. That's what this line means. Otherwise, there'll be 4 people trying to. So that means first retreat and pause, then catch hold of what the Weinu is doing, and then follow attune to the Weinu's guidance, leading. The next question from Lian Ting. Amitabha, greetings to Master. Some Dharma propagators, when they lead sutras and heart mantras, they only use the wooden fish and they don't coordinate with the singing bowl for the beginning and ending. Is this okay? Okay, so this is a problem that I've also observed. Actually, during online cultivation, sometimes I hear after every section, they would ring the bell, the Vajra bell, before they go to the next segment. However, because everyone doesn't know, then we have to take the class today. Why does this Dharma propagator only use the wooden fish and not the singing bowl? Is it because they're unfamiliar with the singing bowl? When we chant sutras, when we recite the Hiking Sutra, which is very short, it's still okay. However, if you're reciting the Kishigaba Sutra, which can take an hour or longer, it's actually very tiring to sound the wooden bell for over an hour. So after the third line of the first section, the singing bowl needs to be sounded so that people would know that they can rest their palms. Initially, you have your palms placed together at the start of the sutra chanting, and then some people have their palms together, but others might put their palms down on their own. So at the end of the sutra recitation, maybe the third line from the last line, before the last line, you would put your palms together, and this is indicated or signaled by the singing bowl, and it's also a signal to the person playing the bell and drum to return to their position, and the person playing the bell and drum needs to enter the break ending. They will need to close. So the singing bowl is indicating that everybody needs to put their palms back together, and also the person playing the bell and drum needs to return to their position to play the bell and drum. If there is no sound from the singing bowl is a command. Otherwise, you're not able to indicate to the assembly when to place your palms together, when to place your palms together, or when is the last chant of a mantra. If you don't sound the singing bowl, then people might not know that it's the 7th chant or the 21st chant. They might continue chanting. You might be ending, but then the assembly might not know and they continue chanting or singing. So if you're leading, then you need to hold your conductor's beta and your now that you know, hold your singing bowl mallet to guide or lead the assembly. Okay, thank you, Master Lian Wei, for your answer.
下一题是莲花得名。如果人兼任韦罗与引磬，是否可用引磬？
Okay, the question is from Lianhua Demin. If someone is Wei Nuo as well as Yanxi, is it okay to use the guiding bell to press the singing bowl? Usually, in a Dharma ceremony, or maybe not a Dharma ceremony, but in any case, if someone is a Wei Nuo and my left hand, if I'm a Wei Nuo, my left hand is holding the guiding bell, my right hand is holding the mallet of the singing bowl. So it's not really possible for me to be using the guiding bell to be pressing on the singing bowl because my right hand is still free. So during a Dharma ceremony, please prepare microphones that are hung on the ear. Don't prepare handheld mics because the Wei Nuo might not have an extra hand to hold the microphone. It has to be microphones that they can wear around their ears. The next question about from Tianhua Xiaoling, which regarding the noon offering and the evening ritual. Do we strike or sound the singing bowl 3 times and then offer incense, or do we first offer incense and then sound the singing bowl? If it's teamwork and there are many people, you can sound the singing bowl 3 times and then we can offer incense. However, usually, for example, at Tanglisang Temple, when it's only one person doing the noon offering or evening ritual, then you would, because you have to offer incense at 2 places, at the main hall to the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas, then we have to go outside to offer incense in the incense burner to the devas. So then you would offer the incense first and then sound the singing bowl. But if there are many people doing it together, then first you can sound the singing bowl first and then offer incense together. The next question from Master Lianhe. When a person playing the bell and drum is not playing the bell and drum, do they need to kneel and chant the sutras together, or can they sit on the chair to recite sutra? So I have this in the notes, and Master Lianhe is very paid a lot of attention to detail. Someone playing the bell and drum, when during a sutra chanting, the person playing the wooden fish is the one who is playing the instrument at this time. So the person playing the bell and drum should also kneel and chant sutras together with everyone until the Wei Nuo sounds the singing bowl 3 lines from the concluding line, and then the person playing the bell and drum can get up and return to his or her position to play bell and drum. Thank you, Master Lian Wei, for your response. The next question from Yan Liang. Can Master and play or show the way to play the bell and drum. There isn't sufficient time for during today's class, so let's leave it to the sessions. We can leave it to the sessions where there is mention of the bell and drum. I can demonstrate. I can provide a Dianban score for everyone to learn. When the person playing the bell and drum,
听懂吗？它是依据音乐
the person playing the bell and drum plays a freestyle. They can play it according to the melody of the sound. When the Weino changes to another melody, there's no one size fits all kind of playing rhythm. When I first started learning, no one taught me, and I was driving. Maybe Grandmaster gave me a software that was input into my brain, because someone at the Cultivation venue told me, you have to play the bell and drum tomorrow. At 10 p.m. that night, I practiced the bell and drum, and by myself for half an hour, I was not able to play it. And then I went to the altar, and then I prayed to Grandmaster fervently. They asked me to play the bell and drum. I don't know how to play it. And then after praying 5 minutes later, I returned to the instrument, and then I was able to play it. So Grandmaster's blessing is inconceivable. After his blessing, the next day I was able to play. But when I practice it on my own, and in the practice room, or when I listen to different kinds of styles, my hands would start playing, drumming together to different kinds of sound. And when I was driving, I would tap on the driving wheel and to different kinds of melodies, whether they are soothing melodies or rock and roll or other kinds of music. So there's no fixed way of playing the bell and drum. I will give everyone a basic rhythm that you can follow. 1, 2, 3, 4. Maybe I will play some sound. 清净法身佛，清净啊法身，好，类似这样子 ，OK， Something like this. 这个，因为我在家，我们家是没有钟点， because when I'm teaching, there's no bell and drum at home. But I will give everyone a basic rhythm, Dianban score, so that your hands can try moving along to get a feel of the instrument. Thank you for your compassionate answer and demonstration. And if anyone, there's one more question from Lianhua Damin. Occasionally, we encounter Dharma propagators.
他可能是在比较紧急的状况之下，他手
We use the guiding bell to press the singing bowl. Is it correct? Maybe the Dharma propagator doing a movement, they use the guiding bell to press the singing bowl. The sound is different. When you use a guiding bell to sound the singing bowl versus the mallet to sound the singing bowl, it's different. The way, maybe that was an emergency situation where they had no alternative, but in general, let's use the mallet with the singing bowl to sound the singing bowl.
现在目前为止没有其他问题了。但是若有其他问题未能在今
there
晚
are no
解答
further
的，将会
questions.
安排在下一堂
But
课后统一
if
回
there are
答。
other questions, you can leave them in the chat. Let me continue a little bit. Next lesson, we are going to go into the practical component, and we will teach the incense praise. And the 7th lesson, we will learn in praise of the pure. So I saw that Dharma sister Shaman use Liu Yin, a will chime, but for those who don't have Dharma ritual instruments, you don't necessarily have to buy it. You can also borrow from other people. But if you are planning to help out in this capacity at your cultivation venue in terms of playing the ritual instruments, then you have to keep practicing. But for others, you can use pens to hit the table. Right hand holding the wooden fish mallet and left hand treat it as though you're sounding the singing bowl. You don't necessarily have to buy the ritual instruments. You can also use pens to play the rhythms for your assignments or exam segment. The main thing is to help us familiarize with the beats and also the melody, the singing. You can keep it in rhythm. You don't necessarily have to buy the ritual instruments. The next lesson, we will need two brave volunteers, one Sangha member, ordained member, and who is willing to volunteer. I can also help to listen whether the chanting is correct. There needs to be interaction so that I will know the progress of your learning. There can be 2 or 3 people. If one of the volunteers, you can leave it for a Sangha member. And after singing, we will go over whether that was accurate. There are 2 exams. One is during the class time because just having 2 people participating in the class quiz or exam assessment will take up 10 minutes. So other people who want to take part in this in-class assessment, you can take a video of your singing, so then we can review whether is your posture decorum, your Wei Yi, is it correct, and your chanting, is it. So if there are videos of your own practice, then I would be able to see whether your Wei is correct, your chanting is correct. You can share it with Dharma instructor Yi Tai, and I won't announce the score because sometimes might hurt people's feelings, but then that would just be a pass or fail. But those who volunteer for the class assessments, they'll get 10 additional points for being brave to take part in the class assessment. For Liu Xiangzan incense praise, usually the Dianban scores are in black and white. However, for the slow tempo version, the slow version of the incense praise, there are 2 kinds of melody that are repeated. So tonight I will go and highlight the parts, and you can so tonight, the Google Drive link that I'll share, the Dianban scores are in black and white, but tomorrow you will see in the same folder, there are Dianban scores with highlighted areas that will indicate the melodies. So you can download all the Dianban for the following lessons, for the following practical lessons. So it's best to print it all out, and then you can go to a 7-Eleven if you're in Taiwan to get your documents printed, so that you can follow along during the classes. Okay, that's all I have to share. That's it. Okay, thank you, Master Lian Wei, for your advance notice regarding the next lessons. I'm sure everyone is looking forward to all these practical lessons. And you can
并且可以到 YouTube 观看回播，多听
You
多
can
练习。
download the class
现在请
materials
大家打开您
from
的摄像
the
头，我们来
PBSOU's
拍
website
大
or
合照。
from the WhatsApp group
再
channels.
次请后台帮忙拍大合照。
Okay, let's
上
take
课的
a
所有教材都会在真佛网络大学有一个叫做课程什么的上面，好，你们可以下载所有的
there will
文
be
字。
a
如果有
place
需
where
要
you can download all the
好，
necessary
现在
files
请后
accompanying
台
the
帮我们
classes.
拍大合照。
Okay, now let's take a group
10
photo and count down from 10, 9,
8
8, 7,
6
6,
5
5, 4,
4
3,
1
2, 1.
好，再次感谢后台帮忙
Okay,
拍
thank
大合照。
you once
诚
again
挚的感
to
谢连
the
伟上
backhand
师的
team
授
as
课，
well
也
as
非
to
常感谢英语翻
Master
译员连安法
Lian
师、
Wei
印尼文翻
for
译
her
员
teaching
莲花
and
培生
also
指教。
the
现在我们
interpreters,
将可以打开
Dharma
麦克
assistant
风给
Lian
授课导师
Peifan
连夫
现在大家可
and
以打开
also
麦克风和连伟上师道谢和说再见哦。可以打开吗？
连良也在这边。
谢谢上师，阿弥陀佛，
上师上师，
两位
上师，
everyone can turn on your mics to say
上师
goodbye to Master Lian Wei.
周佑
感恩上师，感
好
恩上
啦，
师，
谢，
谢谢上师，
连文。
期待您
啊，
主持
下个礼拜见啦。
好，下个礼拜见哦。下个礼拜我们就真的只唱诵了哈。真好，拜拜，晚安，
谢谢上师，
大家晚
感恩上师。
安，好，
法师，拜拜，上师节好，拜拜，
啊，
好，晚安，大家晚安。
晚安，
好，大家晚安，
好，中
感
观塔
恩大家的参与，我们下周同一时间再见。
好，大家晚安。希望大家都知道反复要怎么用。我会一再重复哈，你们第一次听如果可能不太了解，之后我们上课会一再讲什么叫做下板，什么时候要合掌，什么时候要放掌。
大家晚安，
好，多讲几次大家都知道了。连端，
哎，上师，上师好，
看到你了，拜拜拜拜。好，
上师啊，
也有一个叫什么连令，连铃。OK， 好，都看过哈。好，宋敏晚安，大家晚安。
上师晚安，
好，大家晚安，拜拜。
上师晚
拜
安，拜拜，
拜拜，
谢谢上师，
感恩
我们下线了，拜拜哦，拜拜，
感恩
下个礼拜见了，拜拜。
上师拜拜。